I'm Joel Fairbrother from Bow River Law in Calgary, Alberta. We're a team of employment lawyers. And today I'm going to be answering the question, what happens if I breach my employment contract? So this is a pretty broad question. There's many different ways you can breach an employment contract. First, we'll start with what is a contract? An employment contract, it can be implied or, verbal implied, so it's not written down, or it can be written down, or it can be partly written down and partly verbal. And the terms of the contract come either from the written one or just the conduct of the parties and what the expectations of the parties are. So if you're verbally hired as a project manager and you're given a job description, your contract terms are, most of them are in that job description. Some of them are in your compensation. Some of them are in, policies of the employer, like non-competition, non-solicitation, conflict of interest policies, stuff like that, confidentiality policies. So when I say what happens when you breach a contract? Well, if you breach an employment contract while you're still employed there, the normal thing that would happen is that you'll either be disciplined by the employer for misconduct, or they might terminate your employment. And if they terminate your employment, if what you did was a bad enough breach, then they might try and say they have just cause for termination, which is where they don't have to pay you anything for severance. So that's the normal thing, the normal sorts of things that happen if you breach an employment contract. But if it's a more serious breach, let's say it's a major conflict of interest, or where you've opened a competing business at the same time you're employed, or you are siphoning off funds or something like that, or redirecting money to yourself, very serious breaches, like where you are physically violent with another employee. I mean, there's just a million things it could be. Okay, but if it's serious enough, your employer actually in some cases can come after you directly in a lawsuit for damages. The most common thing that employers come after employees for would be, in my experience, would be non-solicitation and non-competition clauses. So these will usually be in an employment contract. Sometimes employers will try to rely on ones that are in a policy manual, although that's a bit harder for them. But usually the scenario is that this person works somewhere, often in like a sales job or a higher up job in the company. They leave and they try and bring a bunch of clients with them, and the former employer then sues them. So these things are potentially a breach of an employment contract, even if it's happening after you've left. Some clauses like non-solicitation, non-competition, confidentiality can continue after you've left. So there's many different things that can happen if you breach an employment contract. If you think if you're about to do something that you think might be a breach, you should speak to an employment lawyer first. And if you have already done something and you've received like a cease and desist letter from your employer or something like that, you should speak to an employment lawyer, because you might be in a position where you're potentially going to get sued. So again, I'm Joel Fairbrother, and I hope this video has been helpful.